calm down. Yes, we're all wonderful people. Doesn't that suck? Having to argue with gray text and me. I mean, but you're much easier with in Menham, really, because you sort of wanna. Fuck you people! You don't understand. Hey, I'm fucking 39 years old, okay? And I've been thinking about these anarchistic ideas and liberty for a long, long time, okay? Just as passionate as you at what I suppose is your age. Paying just as much attention and noticing there's lots of different ideas too, so yeah, no, everybody doesn't understand it. What you don't seem to understand is there are key problems. You sit there and you say, well, why would somebody not let you pass across their land? Why would somebody hog their resource and play hardball? Because we're in that right now. People do that right now. And I want to know where the accountability is. Okay, you talk about freedom of association, freedom to do what you want. Right. So what about the freedom to sell yourself into slavery? Okay, what about the freedom to be a poor, poverty-stricken, oppressed person abroad, maybe in a dictatorship, that's choosing to sell themselves into slavery in the U.S. just to get out of that dictatorship? Oh, they'll still be a slave, but they feel their situation will be better. So they voluntarily sell themselves into slavery. Well, that's against the Emancipation Proclamation. You don't have the right to voluntarily sell yourself into slavery, and for a good reason. Now it sounds to me like you're fine with that. People go into a voluntary situation because their situation they're in is even worse. So they could be manipulated into going into pretty crappy, pretty much enslaved, non-free, not really volunteer situations. What about the kids of these indentured servants that sell themselves into slavery in your system? Can these people sell their kids into slavery? Can they say, I'll come over and the next 3 generations of my family will work for you as slaves? Or all the generations? Can they do that? Oh no, I assume not. I assume that a brand new baby boy at 15 or 18 gets to decide if he wants to be a slave. Oh, but wait a second. His parents will be bringing him up in the slave plantation. The people that own all the goods in that area, all the plantation owners, can set up what kind of situation he'll be in if he's kicked off the plantation. Say with no work, with no resources, no property, nowhere to sleep legally. Because he has no property. And all of the rights come from what you have property of. So he can be manipulated into the same choice that his parent was manipulated into, to voluntarily be a slave. Well, hey, that kind of voluntary world is not good enough for me. I don't want just the word voluntary. I want actual fucking freedom. You understand? And your system has some big holes in it for creating actual freedom. And a big part is because you can't imagine why private entities would play hardball with other people's lives and livelihoods. And get a corporate job and you'll see. Because it's pretty clear right now we don't have to go back in time to the robber barons. Another thing I don't think you understand is that you talk about laws a lot and rules and oh, okay, so if you pollute my land, I will be able to sue you, right? But what fucking entity is going to be strong enough to enforce the law? Companies do not voluntarily obey the law. They are made to obey the law. If you do not have a system by which you can make them obey the law with some entity stronger than them, then you have left a big hole in your system for actual freedom. To have a free market requires regulation. You have to rate and grade the grain. You have to have rules about how it's traded so that you can normalize the grain and you can buy and sell grain of a certain grade before it's even produced because you know how it's going to be rated. There might be different amounts of production, so you won't know the actual price until harvest time, but you can buy and sell ahead making guesses of what that price will be. And this is all because of a regulated market. So the beautiful market anarchy requiring markets requires heavy regulation because markets are created. They don't just exist on their own. Markets are a creation of mankind, and we have to actually have some system in place to create them, and you lack that system, you just simply say, the government's coercive, so we don't want it. But private entities are also coercive, and you won't face that. You won't face the coercion of private entities. You're just saying, oh, it's not coercion by definition. Or it won't happen because the natural laws will just make, I can't imagine why somebody would not allow passage over their land. And there isn't always another place to go for certain resources. Capitalists are good at getting control of all of a given resource so that they can control it. And that can be done because there's leverage in the real world. Forget governments. There's actual leverage. If you own a disproportionate amount of the transportation or energy or access to water, then you have a disproportionate amount of control that you can use to coerce. And it doesn't matter what kind of governmental system there is. If you have a disproportionate control, then you can exert a disproportionate amount of power. You're not addressing those issues. So this isn't just us not understanding what anarchy is, though if that was it, that would be fair because you don't all have the same presentation of what anarchy is. So get your own, thing together if you want us all to have just one idea of what it is. Okay? But I'm actually pretty much familiar with a lot of the different permutations of this system, and you're missing huge points that you refuse to see and then get really upset that other people aren't understanding. But maybe it's you that don't understand, because you say you can't picture why somebody would hog, monopolize, or leverage a resource they have disproportionate control of, and that doesn't make sense. You ought to be able to understand why people would do that, why people do that now, why they will do it more in American anarchy where there is no accountability to doing otherwise. They're encouraged to do it. They're encouraged to manipulate people into voluntarily selling themselves into indentured servitude.